pasta, unfortunately, is a tradition which is fading away even in Italy, but today we're going to be revitalizing it. And I'm sifting some flour. This is plain flour. I will be mixing today 400 grams of plain flour with 100 grams of bread flour. And here comes the bread flour. And the reason why I'm mixing it is because it will be much easier to work once I mix it with the eggs, and also it will make it much finer and fluffier. And I will be adding some salt as well, a little salt, not a lot, just enough to give it a little pinch. I'm going to dig a little hole already for my eggs, but I will also add a little drop of olive oil. And I'm going to be using 5 eggs, 1 egg per 100 grams of flour. If you're using large eggs, most probably 4 will be enough, but these are quite small, so I'm going for 5. However, I will start with 4 and I will add the 5th once I've mixed my dough together.
Watch out, everyone. Yourself.
You can choose to do this in a bowl or in a food processor if you like, but I like using my worktop. This is the way they do it in Italy. And I'm using my worktop today because I think it's nicer. That's the way that my nanny used to do it in Sicily, and I'm loving it, replicating that style. But of course you can use a food processor or indeed a bowl if you like. So go in with your hands and start mixing it all together. Just be patient and take your time. You will see that after a few minutes the flour will become very crumbly like this. And I'm happy now that I can add my last egg. As your doughs are taking more shape, do the kneading by pushing the dough with the palm of your hands and pull it back with your fingers, like this. You will find that if you use the same ratio of flour, that mixing it is a little bit harder because the bread flour clearly is a little bit stronger. But the reason why I'm mixing the two together is because I want the tenderness from the plain flour, but also the bread flour will have more gluten, making it more softer, and also will have more texture, and it will be more traditional and artisan taste that it has in Sicily. And I'm nearly done. Admittedly, it was hard because of the combination of flour, but if you were to use just plain flour, or better still, 00 type flour, which nowadays is available from most supermarkets, it would be a lot easier. But also what I did, I just added a little bit more olive oil to make it a little bit easier on me. And it's fine now, it's done, it's perfect. So I've got a lovely yellow bowl, and it feels nice and smooth and nice and fresh, not sticky at all. I'll put it back in the bowl and I'll put a cover on, and I'll leave it to rest for about 30 minutes. You can also put cling film, or you can use a towel, whatever you've got handy, as long as you cover it so that no air gets in. All children love meatballs, but a lot of children do not like vegetables. So one way that we found that was really good to make them eat vegetables when my children were young was to hide vegetables. This is spinach, which comes from our garden. I'm chopping it into small pieces. Of course you can also use fresh spinach, and in which case do what I'm about to do. But you can also use frozen spinach, in which case you can skip this step, but I'll show you later. A little olive oil in a saucepan, not a lot, just a little. And as it is, you do not need to wait until it's hot, just I will add my spinach. As soon as they start sizzling, I'll place the lid on. I'll turn the temperature down onto medium-high, number 6 out of 9 in my case, and I will leave. I will not touch them for 3 to 4 minutes, and they will really shrink, and then I will mix them with the meatballs. The water will be released from the spinach, and they will cook in their own steam. In the meantime, I'll move on to the meatballs. This is mince, 500 grams of mince, it's beef mince, but also you can use pork, or you can actually use also a combination of pork and beef if you like. I'm just doing it straight with beef mince today. And I'm now grating in some Parmesan cheese. Quantities to taste, I will be putting a good 30 grams of Parmesan cheese. Unless you do not like cheese, make sure that you put some in. This is fresh parsley, which I just picked from the garden, and I'm chopping it as fine as I can. And I'll add it to my mince. You can also use any herbs you like. You can use oregano if you like, or thyme. Entirely up to you really, but I always use fresh parsley in this recipe because it really draws out the flavor of the meatballs. 1 clove of garlic, and I will crush this in as well. Again, this is optional. If you don't like garlic, don't put it in. You can also grate in an onion if you like, or 2 onions, entirely up to you, but today I think I've got plenty going on, so I'll stop with the garlic. Oops, another egg. This will help bind the polpettine together. Polpettine, by the way, because they are small polpette what I will be making today. So polpette are the big ones, polpettine are the little ones. Pinch of salt. And some pepper. So my spinach are done. I will take them out on my board. And I'll do one final chop by going back with my knife. And this is how I hide vegetables in the meatballs. I will be adding some breadcrumbs in a moment to give some texture, but before I do that I want to see what it looks like. So I'll go in with a spoon and mix everything together. And I'll start with a couple of dessert spoon of breadcrumbs. One more and that should be enough. Important to leave the breadcrumbs for last because that's what will enable you to moderate how dry or wet it's going to be, and in my case 3 was enough, but you'll have to judge it depending also on how big the eggs are. And now that I'm pretty much done, I'll just go in with my hands to see what it feels like consistency wise. And it's perfect actually because it's not sticky, and I can see that I'm going to be able to work it very nicely. And I start making my polpettine, and approximately the measure is 1 teaspoon in terms of the means I'm using, and just be patient and take your time. And 1 million polpettine later I am done. So as I said, just be patient, and you can ask some little people to help you. Mine did used to help and they used to enjoy it. And talking of little people, here's another little secret on how to hide from the little vegetable detective vegetables. So little carrot or small carrot, whatever you might find in a food processor. I'm making the base for a ragu, and this is like a soffritto, and I'm combining peppers with carrots, celery and onions. In Italy there are 1 million variations of ragu. This is what I've used for years and has always worked well. I've just peeled a white medium size onion, and I'm also doing a red one. Although they taste similar, this one is considerably sharper than this one, so the combo will be quite nice, and I will add them to the food processor. Stick of celery, clove of garlic. Now with little people you might find that they're not very keen on garlic, so you might want to be very kind.
Unless they're ours, obviously.
Unless they're ours, yes. So either you don't put any in or you only put a little. You will have to judge it depending on their taste. But this one goes in as well. And here it is, a lovely and fine base for my ragu. Same pan as before, you do not need to mess another one up. Olive oil. I'll wait until the oil gets nice and hot and I will add my base. I will lower the temperature to medium high. I do not want it to burn, but I'll leave it to sizzle for a good couple of minutes. Wonderful, and that is a good time for me to now add my tomato passata. This is 1 liter. I'm adding a little water here. 2 reasons. One is to rinse the bowl, but also I want to make the passata less dense, a little bit more liquidy, as it will cook for half an hour. So my passata is boiling as just reached temperature, and I'm going to be lodging my wooden spoon in here. I'll pull the lid on, I'll turn it down onto medium-low number 4, and I'll leave it to simmer gently for 10 minutes before I add the meatballs. And we are on the polpettine home stretch now, so let's have a look. They're quite delicate, so just pick them up one by one and put them in. Temptation is to just throw them in, but if you do, they will stick to one another. And that's it. Make sure that they're all covered in sauce. And just like I did before, I will place my spoon here, and I will leave the lid so that some of the water content from the tomato sauce evaporates, and I will leave them to cook on number 5 medium for another 20 to 25 minutes. Now, these are amazing machines, pasta machines. We bought ours 31 years ago when we purchased our first house, and they still look like this today. I'm not sure if they make them as good quality as this one is, but my nanny used to have one of these, looked just like this. My mum has got one of these, and they always look the same, but they are incredibly good machine. It's a shame that they're not widely used anymore, but they're really, really good. They come with this little clip which goes here, and you secure it on your worktop. The machine has got 3 settings. This is to make lasagna, but we'll also be using it today for the tagliatelle to start with. This is to make tagliatelle, and this is to make spaghetti. So I'll start here because this is what I will be using to roll the pasta first. And here is a little knob that adjusts the width of the 2 rolls, and I'll start with the greatest cup first, number 1. I'll put a little flour on my worktop. Make sure the worktop is dry, there is no water on top of it. Here is my pasta.
Gadget you got for his wedding anniversary.
Indeed. And I'll chop it into 4 pieces. And I'll shape each piece into a little ball. And I'm making tagliatelle, and I'll show you what to do. I've just done a few practice once. I'll start by cutting it yet into smaller pieces. I'll give it a little squash with my hand. I'm moving the rollers to the highest position, where the gap is the largest, number 1, and I'll feed it through. I'll be doing this 3 times, but each time it comes out, I'll fold it in half and feed it again. One more time. Great fun. Moving my wheel to number 3 next.
Which makes the hole a little bit smaller.
And I'll feed it through once again. But we'll only do this once. And my final size for my tagliatelle is going to be number 4. If you like it nice and fine, you can go to number 5, but number 4 is pretty good. That is perfect. I'll move my handle to the tagliatelle setting. You'll know if you've done a good job because your pasta is nice and moist but not sticky, so actually it's really, really easy to work. And just feed it through.
And that's where the magic happens.
And that is when the magic happens, indeed. And I'll move it onto a plate where I've already put some flour at the bottom, and I'll make a little rosette, and I will not touch it, I'll just leave it alone. But I'll just sprinkle a tiny little amount of flour on top. And just for completeness, I'm going to show you what spaghetti would look like. I'm making them the same thickness of my tagliatelle, and I suppose they look more like noodles. There they are.
Lovely.
Homemade spaghetti. But not today. I'm going to mix this up again and make it into tagliatelle though. And we're done, and it is all ready and looking absolutely wonderful. And my meatballs are also done, and they look great and they smell delicious.
I've had a little taster, they were lovely.
Of course you have. Water is boiling, a little salt, and in goes my fresh tagliatelle. Put in a little nest one by one, by the way, otherwise they will just attach to one another. By the way, you can freeze these, and if you freeze it as a nest, you can put them in a Tupperware container, and then if you want to defrost them, you just defrost as many as you want. Ideal, really. And not only when you cook them, you can cook them from frozen. And being that it is fresh pasta, it will take anything between 3 to 5 minutes, so see you in a little while. After a couple of minutes, I've gone in with my fork to ensure that it's all loose and it's looking great. Let's have a taste. Very hot, but another couple of minutes. It's chunkier than normal tagliatelle, so it's going to take a little longer, but it is nice. So the traditional way to do this is that you serve some sauce with the pasta first, like I'm doing now, including some meatballs, and you give it a good mix inside your pot. Do you know what this is called, Julie, in Italian, this pasta server?
I don't actually know, what is it?
It's a zecca. It stands for tick. because it looks like it's thick. I'm struggling to get rid of this one, look.
It's a monster.
There you go, I'll put it in all together. Yes, look, that's like a tick.
Like a tick. If you say so, dear.
Followed by some sauce at the very, very top. And of course, plenty of meatballs, especially for those little people. And this is not customary, it's compulsory. You have to put some Parmesan cheese on top. And I'm gonna actually grate it from the larger teeth. This will look also nicer. And it goes without saying, the king of all herbs, basil. A little pasta with a compulsory meatball. I've only got one word for it. Divine. You will love it. Thank you. Ciao ciao. Enjoy. Arrivederci.